Hi there, folks. The rifle you're looking at is a Savage Model 340. Now, the Savage 340 is a discontinued model of Savage. These have not been produced for, probably 25 years or more. And they were Savage's entry at the time into the sort of the economy end of the bolt-action rifle market. This particular rifle was manufactured in a few calibers. This one specifically is in .30-30 Winchester. It was also made in .225 Winchester, 22 Hornet, and .222 Remington, I do believe. I'll have to check and see if there's any additional calibers that these were manufactured in, but those are just the ones that pop to mind. Now, this particular rifle was purchased by me quite a while ago, and it was actually new old stock when I bought it. It had been sitting on the shelf of a dealer's inventory for quite some time, and I think I traded something for this. He seemed to be quite happy to get rid of it because I guess there wasn't much market for bolt-action 30-30s, not being a very sexy style of firearm, and the 30-30 not being a real high-performing round. Didn't draw a lot of attention, so I was able to get this pretty good deal for a brand new rifle at the time. But I have owned it for probably, I'm guessing, 15 years or so. Anyway, not a lot to it. See there's safety catch here on the top. Down is for safe. Up is for fire. We've got a stamped trigger guard and floor plate combination on the bottom here. Very much reminiscent of what you would find on a bolt-action shotgun. Magazine release is just this little lever here. It's almost a two-handed affair to get the magazine out. And like I said, everything about this is pretty much economy. You can see that the bottom metal and trigger guard are just stuck on top of the stock. They're not inletted into the stock as they would be with a more expensive firearm. I'm just going to flip it over here and we'll have a look at the other side. So here's the rifle from the left-hand side, and we have a look at the markings here. You can see this is a Series E Model 340. There are a variety of different series of 340, and they differ in some details. So if you have any more questions on the various series, it's probably better to go online and find a forum with some people who know how to tell you the differences between some of those different series. This uses the Savage proprietary barrel nut system. So basically the barrel is pushed into the receiver, and this threaded collar holds it in place and can be used to adjust the head space as well, if I'm not mistaken. You can see we've got a fairly simple style of hardwood stock. Got a bit of a Monte Carlo comb on it. It's actually a fairly comfortable stock. We've got a just a hard plastic butt plate, no recoil pad on it. Got a grip cap that has the Savage Arms logo on it, which is kind of nice to see. And there are some cheap things about this rifle. The finish is very subdued. It's not a high gloss finish, just a matte sort of a utilitarian finish. We've got a fixed front sight which is held onto the barrel with a screw, and you can see that there's this band that goes around the barrel here, and it's held on the bottom by means of the forward sling swivel stud, and that actually anchors the barrel to the stock at the front. So no pretense of this being a free-floated barrel at all. We have a windage and elevation adjustable flip-up rear sight here. Looks like a sort of a Williams style. It appears to be made out of steel, and it folds down out of the way when you're not using it. As you can see, I've got a scope on this, just a 4x32 Simmons scope in a set of Weaver rings with a Weaver side mount base, and that's necessary if you want to put a scope on one of these. You need this particular specific base and a side mount, because of course the top of the receiver will not accommodate rings or mounts in any other fashion. See the side of the receiver here, we've got a gas vent in case of a ruptured cartridge case, which is a bit of a nice feature. Alright, I've got the rifle propped up in a sandbag here, just show you the bolt action. It's a fairly simple bolt mechanism. As you can see, turn down bolt handle, and to remove the bolt from the rifle, pull the trigger and just pull the bolt all the way out the back. And we'll have a look at the bolt itself. If you are familiar with bolt action shotguns, some of this stuff will look very much more like a shotgun bolt than it will most of your standard rifles. We have basically got a guide rib on the bolt here and a single locking lug here at the front, and the root of the bolt handle at the back here acts as a secondary or safety lug, although it does not bear, in normal operation, it does not take any of the load. You can see this camming surface here cocks the bolt. The bolt is cocked upon opening, and we've got a stamped extractor and guide, which are pretty much one piece, and they are clamped onto the bolt head. So it's a very simple sort of style of rifle. You can either think of it as an overgrown 22 rimfire action or a shrunk down bolt action shotgun action. So not the smoothest operating thing in the world, but certainly sufficient for the cartridges for which it was chambered. So not horribly harsh to operate, but not terribly smooth either, so kind of in between. You can see the guide rib rotates around, and that gives you a better idea of the bearing surface of the front locking lug. So not the kind of action you would want to change over for anything with a lot more pressure than what they came set up from the factory for. We have a little bit of a look at the receiver, and the receiver appears to have been manufactured out of a piece of round bar stock, or perhaps tube, hard to say, with some slots cut out of it, and the corresponding locking lug recess milled into the front of it. So nothing very complicated about it, nothing very elegant about it, but it is workmanlike enough. To put the bolt back in, simply pull the trigger. Let me get the bolt head lined up with the pull the trigger and insert the bolt. And if you want to decock the mechanism, you can pull the trigger while let the bolt handle down. As you can see, opening the bolt handle moves the striker here back. So let's have a look at the magazine. Magazine catch is located on the bottom, and push the magazine catch with your thumb and pull the mag out with your other hand. It's almost necessary to use two hands to get the magazines out of this. There is actually a spring inside here which pushes the magazine out. Maybe you can see that spring, and that actually shoves the magazine out into your hand. There are a couple of different size magazines. You can see this is the one for 225 Winchester and 30-30, so be sure to get the right magazine. Magazines for these are they're getting to be kind of expensive and hard to find, so if you have one of these rifles and you come across a magazine at a reasonable price, it certainly wouldn't be a bad idea to pick it up while you have the opportunity. So very simple magazine, very much like you'd find on a 410 bolt action shotgun, something like that. Single position feed, a follower and a spring. This one is a 3-shot capacity. You can see it holds the cartridges by the back. These are some rather old and ugly looking Dominion 30-30s that I was given for nothing, so just use those to show you what the how the mag loads. So with a loaded mag, simply reinsert and it'll lock in place. You can actually put a fully loaded mag in. You can have another round in the chamber. Show you a little bit about the safety catch. First I'll take the loaded mag out there. The safety catch is this lever here on the back of the receiver. Up is in the fire position, and down is in the safe position. With the safety catch applied, the trigger's locked, but the bolt is free to operate. so you can actually cycle rounds out of the gun with the safety catch still on, which is a pretty good deal. Alright, let's put a few rounds down range. This is some very old Dominion brand ammo, 150 grain soft points. It's probably 50 or 60 years old. I was given a handful of these, so I'm just going to fire them off to get rid of them. I don't imagine the accuracy will be too wonderful considering how old this ammo is, but I guess we'll see. Alright, my last 3 shots with this antique ammunition. Not ejecting terribly well. Sure what's going on with that. Alright, that's all the shells for today. Well, the antique Dominion ammunition didn't shoot too well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots I fired at that in about 4 inches, but considering the rather poor condition of that ammunition, I'm surprised actually that it fired at all. Not terribly surprised that it shot a big group. Here's one of the better groups of the day. This is 5 shots at 100 yards with a cast bullet load. That's a Lyman 311-291 cast of wheel weights and water quenched, and that's behind 25 grains of 30-31 for about 1800 feet per second. So not a lot less power than a full power load actually, with a bullet in that weight being about 2,000 feet per second in a jacketed factory load. So we're only a couple of 100 feet per second slower than a jacketed load, and that's in about about an inch, I would say, thereabouts, for the 5 shots, which is pretty respectable for that kind of a rifle and that kind of a bullet. Further to accuracy, this rifle really seems to like 170 grain Winchester power points. The kind of ammo you can find just about anywhere. It'll put 5 of those into an inch just about all the time, so not bad performance for fairly cheap ammo out of a fairly cheap rifle.